Welcome to the part 3 of our Goku costume. Today we're going to be sewing the clothes. Alright, today we're going to need our material, some elastic, matching thread and some washable markers. First thing we're going to do is we're going to fold up our material with one side double over like this. Now the reason I'm doing this today is because I'm trying to make these as easy as possible for people to follow along. And by putting this side of the pants along that folded edge, it means it's one less side that we have to sew up. And because I know not everyone has sewing patterns at home, I figured let me teach you an easier way of just simply tracing some clothes that you know already fits your child. So I've traced them with my washable markers there and we're just going to cut them out. Make sure you leave a bit of extra room at the top and at the bottom because we're going to be hemming the pants, so we will be folding over that extra length, so we will need that bit for later. Now we're just going to do that twice and then we're going to open up those cuts and we're going to lay them face down on top of each other and just make sure all those edges join up together. Once we've got it all lined up, we're just going to go around and just pin it into place so it makes it easier to sew. Alright, now let's sew along these edges. For this stitch, I'm just using a simple single stitch. This also makes it easier in case you have any mistakes. It's an easier stitch to undo. Now we're just going to pick it up and flip it over. And what these little seams is here is like right down in the center crotch of the pants. So we want to make sure that this seam here lines up nicely, otherwise your pants are going to end up a little bit screwy. So we're just going to chuck a pin in there. And from that top crotch line, we're just going to put in the pins all the way down to the leg. And we'll do that on both sides. As you can see, they're starting to look a bit more like pants now. And what we're going to do is we're just going to sew all the way around from the leg to the crotch and back down to the leg again. When we get to this crotch area, I just like to go over it 1 or 2 times. That's because it just makes it nice and strong in that area, because let's face it, if your pants are going to split anywhere, that's going to be where it's going to split. Now that we actually have pants that are starting to look a bit like pants, we're just going to finish it off by adding a hem to the bottom of the legs. Now by doing this, we just fold it over on itself twice, flatten it down, and then we're going to stitch along that top on both sides. I haven't shown this bit on the video, but I actually got my son and we measured the elastic around his waist. We made sure that it was just tight enough that it'd be able to hold his pants up. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to attach the elastic to the back seam, and then I'm going to fold the elastic in half so I know where halfway mark is, and I'm going to pin that halfway mark to the back of the pants. Then when we stretch out the elastic, you can work out where the other sides go, and by doing this then we make sure that the elastic goes evenly around the waistband. Now when working with elastic, you're best to use a zigzag stitch, and this allows the stitch to be able to open and close along with the elastic, which means that the elastic can actually work properly. And then to finish it off, we're just going to hem it just the same as we did with the bottom of the trousers. Make sure when you're sewing along this line, you're also using the zigzag stitch. And once that is complete, you have finished your pants. There you have it. Now we're going to move on to the top part. Now the top part, I'm doing it more as a vest shape. So to get that vest shape, I'm just going to get the material and fold it over so that the opening is at the front like you would see on a vest. And then again, I've got one of my son's shirts and I'm just going to lay it over the top there so I can see roughly where the neck curves and the arm curves need to be cut out. Now I have cut that out, but at the front of the vest I've actually cut it down into a V shape, because as you can see here, Goku's vest actually does go down into that lower V. So now we're just going to sew up along the shoulders there, just in a nice simple stitch. And then what I am doing here is I'm just adding a trim all around the edges of my material. Now look, you don't need to do this step, but I'm going to do it for this one because I want to make it look a little bit more professional and finished off. So I've got a thin strip of material here and I'm just going to sew that around the edge of the armholes, and I will also do it to the front of V-neck as well. But once we go all the way around, we're going to do the same as we did with the other hems, and we're going to fold it over and fold it over once again, and then we're going to stitch around the outside. Now this step can be a little bit tricky if you haven't done it before, but like I mentioned before, you don't have to do this step. You could simply just run a single stitch around all those end areas where the material will fray, and it will help to protect the material down the track. But if you've done this, then this completes our vest and pants. Be sure to follow along for part 4 when we add on the details onto the vest, and we also make Goku's boots. So if you're enjoying what you're seeing, please hit a like, comment, share and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.